Okay boys, so today we're going to learn y equals mx plus c, the equation of a straight line. Okay, more on that later. Let's just do a quick warm up first. So we've got a straight line there, and I'd like you to pause the video and have a think about the gradient of the line. Once you've got an idea or you give up, then unpause the video. So you can see that we've drawn a horizontal line and a vertical line that runs from this nice whole number coordinate that the line goes through there, and then this whole number coordinate that the line goes through there. Okay, and it's going 1 across and 2 up. Okay, now some of you will know straight away that means the gradient is 2, because we described the gradient as how much you'd have to go up by when you go across 1. I'm going to show you now a different way of working out gradient that we did sort of talk about, and we're going to be using this a lot more. Gradient equals vertical change divided by horizontal change. So for our particular question here, the vertical change is 2 and the horizontal change is 1, so we get 2. Now before we go on, what I'd like you to do is put this title here in your exercise book, and please copy this little bit about gradient here down. Gradient equals vertical change divided by horizontal change. And perhaps you should draw a box around it to draw a bit of attention to it. Okay, so pause the video, get the title written down, the date of course, the 29th of June, and please write this bit about gradient down, and then unpause. Right, so before we learn about y equals mx plus c and what all of that means, I'd like you to look at a question that you're going to answer later on in this lesson, which is on page 230 and is question 7. So I don't want you to answer it, just want you to quickly pause the video, have a look through the question and then unpause it. So you will see a table and you've got to fill in gradients and y-intercepts. Okay, so what is y equals mx plus c? Well, it's the equation of a straight line. M is the gradient, this means the steepness of the line, and c is the y-intercept, and that means where the line crosses the y-axis. So those two things are numbers. Alright, so you won't see y equals mx plus c, you'll see a number in place of m, and you'll see a number in place of c. So for example, y equals 4x plus 7, or y equals 5x plus 9. Okay, and it says at the bottom there, any diagonal line can be written in this format. Okay. So before we do anything else, if you could write those 3 sentences in your book after your gradient note, we can then move on. So pause the video and then write those 3 sentences and then unpause to move on with the lesson. So here is a question very much like the one you've got to answer, and we're going to quickly go through these things. So we've got a table exactly the same, and I've got some different equations here, although one of them is also in question 7. That was an accident, but we won't worry about that now. So the first one, we've got y equals 4x plus 3. Remember the m, which stands for gradient. It's a little bit annoying that it's m, isn't it? I'd rather it was g, but someone's decided it's going to be m, so we're going to have to live with it. The gradient is the m, the letter that's attached to the x. So in this one, the letter that's attached to the x is 4. So this should say a 4. And it does. Okay, the c there, plus c, is the number on the end that's not attached to x. And it says plus 3 here, so this should be plus 3. And it is. Okay, again, the gradient's number in front of x, so this should be 3. And it is, and the y-intercept is the one on the end that's not attached to x, plus 1, and it is. Okay, now the next one, we've got a gradient of 2, so this should be 2, it is. Now it says minus 5. Well, this isn't just going to be 5, is it? Because then we'd just be ignoring the minus completely. The minus is going to have an effect, or the subtract sign, sorry, and the way that that subtract sign has an effect is it makes this minus 5. You could think of this as being plus minus. You know, when you've got a plus minus written next to each other, they make a subtract sign or a minus. So yeah, I mean, don't think about it too much. If it says -5, the y-intercept will be -5. Over here, the number in front of x is 2, but it's actually -2. Again, that minus has an effect. So this should say -2. And it does. And then we've got a y-intercept of +5. The gradient here is -3, and the y-intercept is +1. Now this one's got a bit of interest in it. The gradient is 2, nice and easy. But there's no number on the end, okay? No number at all. There's nothing there. Well, what number would you use for nothing? The closest number, you know, related to the word nothing would surely be 0. So this should say 0. And it does. And then this one, we've got a gradient of 1/2 and a y-intercept of -5. Okay, well, hopefully you understood that. So what I'd like you to do now is answer question 7, and after that I'd like to try question 8. There might be bits of question 8 you're not too sure of. Don't panic about that, just answer what you can from question 8. But do number 7 first. You will need to make a table or a skeleton table like this one here in your exercise book. You don't need to draw these horizontal lines particularly because you've got a grid in your book. Just draw these bold lines here that separate the title from the rest of it and separate the 3 columns. Okay, so try and fill that in, please. And I'd like you to photograph your answers to question 7 and submit them on Show My Homework. So pause the video and try and answer 7 and 8. There's a little bit more we're going to do after this, so unpause for the rest of the lesson. Right, the other question I'd like you to do is going to be question 5 on the next page, page 231. If you want to pause the video and have a quick look at that before we explain it, then that's fine. Otherwise, we'll go on. So this is all about looking at a graph that you've already got and a line on it and writing its equation. And the way we're going to do that is to work out the gradient and the y-intercept. Okay? Notes. Find the y-intercept. Look for where the line crosses the vertical axis. It says therefore the y-intercept is -2. So that's there, look. That's the point on the y-axis, there, the vertical axis, where this diagonal line cuts the y-axis. So we've got a y-intercept of -2. Now find the gradient. Find 2 coordinates and draw a right angle between them. So there we go. There's one which uses this coordinate here and this coordinate here. I think the PowerPoint's going to show you a different option. Yes, it is. So you could have done it down here. Either one, it doesn't matter. You could have even done a really big one that went all the way from this one along here and up here to this one. So you could make a super triangle that runs between those two. If you want, you'll get the same answer whichever triangle you draw. Okay, now find the height and width of the triangles. So there's 3 on the vertical and 2 on the horizontal. So the gradients will be the vertical 3 divided by the horizontal 2. The vertical change, okay, the vertical change is 3, the horizontal change is 2. So it's 3 divided by 2, it's 1.5. So we've got the gradient is 1.5, and don't forget the intercept was -2. There they are. And now we're going to use those to write the equation of the line. So we've abbreviated that to say m equals 1.5, c equals -2. So y equals mx plus c becomes y equals 1/2x minus 2. Okay, and that's writing the equation of a line by looking at the line itself. So, oh, there's another note, sorry to say. Don't forget, if the graph slopes downwards from left to right, you follow the same process, vertical divided by horizontal, but it's negative gradients, negative slope down as you look at them from left to right. Okay, so don't forget about negative gradients. There's a negative gradient there, look, it's sloping down. So let's look at this one. This is your turn, so you could pause the video and try and work them out yourself, but I am going to talk through them. So pause if you want, or just carry on watching. So this one, we have a y-intercept of 3, and we can see, look here, there's a lovely little triangle here that runs through 2 coordinates, 1 across and 2 up. So vertical change is 2 divided by horizontal change is 1. The gradient is 2 and the intercept is 3. So this is y equals 2x plus 3. There it is. And this one over here, the y-intercept is minus 3. That's the easy bit. Oh, this is a bit tricky, this, because it doesn't go through them exactly. I think it's supposed to go through there, look, and there. It's slightly misaligned. So we're going to use that, look. The vertical change is 1, the horizontal change is 2. So we've got 1 over 2. It's a half, but don't forget it slopes down from left to right. So the gradient is minus a half. So we've got y equals minus a half x minus 3. And there it is. Okay, so after this, boys, I would like you to try and answer question 5 on page 231. It's a match-up question, so if you're feeling a little bit unsure about what I just said, it should be an easy question because you can match things up. So if you're not brilliant at gradients, you might be able to work it out using the intercepts, but please try and think about the gradients as well. We did already look at question 5 a little bit, but now I want us to try and answer it properly. And on the screen there you can see how I'd like you to do it in your book. Alright, and that will be the end of this lesson. Okay, so those are the main things. Good luck, and don't forget I'm in school today, so I might struggle to be able to help you, but you can still post your questions on Teams, and maybe some of you guys might be able to help each other. Don't tell each other the answers, that doesn't really help anybody, but you know, you might be able to offer some words that will help somebody else. And of course, please rewind or watch bits of this video again if you need to hear it again. Okay, good luck, boys.